I was just hoping we could start by having each of you expand on something that Daryl had said. What are the barriers with each of the groups that you work with? What are the main barriers that you're hearing from them? Maybe we'll start with Steve.
Sure. You know, we see so much opportunity for various pieces of technology right now, especially with older adults and people with disabilities, where we're all trying to live healthier, more independent lives. And one of the main barriers that we certainly see out there is digital literacy around learning the pieces of technology. And that's one, actually, Tom happens to be one of our grant recipients, but we've worked with a number of different programs around the country. You know, there's San Diego Futures Foundation, San Diego Oasis, other groups like that are able to look at what technologies are out there and help people overcome the fear of adopting technology. But it is something that we do need organizations like OATS and others that can explain the technology and help to have people learn what opportunities are there and what value there is in different pieces of technology.
Tom, can you talk a little bit about what you do at OATS in that regard?
Sure, and thanks for having us. We feel that a lot of people talked about relevance this morning. David Cohen zeroed in on that, and I think what's happening as we're making the transition is that there's a fairly strong level of infrastructure that's being built around the technology, but now obviously we're shifting to getting people to adopt it, and the value proposition for specific groups becomes really critical. So for seniors, that means that they're being old happens to predict low technology use, and some of it is that people don't appreciate what it can do for their lives. But we have a moving target with seniors because we have a kind of a new age a new era in aging where people are reconceiving what it means to be 70. Today's 70-year-old is often looking for a job or really being a community leader in different ways and trying to use digital tools for that. So tooling up to help people learn those kinds of skills and bridge the kinds of activities and outcomes they're looking for as an older person is what drives them to adopt the internet. So that's what we're
How many seniors aren't online? What's the
right now it's about 40%.
40%. Cliff, we're going to come back to this, but Cliff, can you just talk a little bit about some of the populations that you work with and what the barriers you hear from them?
Right, so we work with two distinct populations. One are people who are incarcerated in prisons, and in most states, they are not allowed to be on the internet. Some of them are in prison because they were on the internet. So we have to come up with solutions that deliver education and information in those kinds of situations offline without security issues. And then we work with people in low-income housing and rural areas. And the issue there is we like to talk about a digital divide, and that's a comfortable place to start from, but it's really an economic divide. Mm-hmm. And for a family who is on the border or in poverty, making a $20 a month decision is a hard decision. Oftentimes they are already foregoing a lot of core needs, and so we're looking for alternative ways to deliver information and education that doesn't involve having such an impact on their budget.
Can you just talk, we're going to come back to that too. Can you just talk about the WiderNet project and what it is what you're creating and what it looks like, what it's like to experience it, what is it?
Right, well, we work largely in developing countries where very few people are connected to the internet. And one of the things that we do, we focus on low cost, high impact solutions for these. And one of the things we do is we put out this eGranary digital library. This little box right here is 32 million resources, about 3,000 websites on a hard drive. And that's in over 1,000 locations around the world. Now prisons here in the US and in developing countries hook this up to a local area network. Thousands of people can share it. It looks like the internet, it acts like the internet. It just, as the prisoners would point out to us, really lacks porn.
So the idea of never, the idea of never being on the internet is unimaginable, I think, to most of us here. Can you each talk about sort of what you hear from first-time users? Maybe we'll start with Steve. And if you're, say, blind, I mean, what are your fears of the first time you use the internet, or what are your barriers?
Sure. Well, there's a number of opportunities that we've certainly heard from the conversations here and earlier that being connected to the internet and using this technology can bring to you. So it's interesting when we work with, say, the blind and low vision community, is many of these devices, all of a sudden you're able to get access to the world around you and the environment around you. There's apps online now that if you're trying to identify, if you're in a hotel and want to know, is this the shampoo bottle or the conditioner bottle, there's things that can help you identify those things. These are, they seem like minor things, but they really do open up the world to you by having access to this information. And when you start looking at accessibility in the workplace and other places like that, a lot of these technologies can really open up the world. We see a lot of it, particularly in the older adult population as well. There's been a number of projects that when you're able to connect someone, particularly people who are homebound, lower income people who really kind of get disconnected from society, are able to reconnect. And it doesn't take the highest technology out there. One of the groups we work with does a virtual senior center that enables homebound people to get out of their apartments virtually using essentially a kind of a Skype, Google Hangout type interaction, and they're able to take classes, tour the world right from their apartment or right from their home. And that has an amazing impact on people's life quality.
And what about the sort of deeper, longer-term impacts to society? I mean, there's tied to health burdens and things like that. Is there, what are some of the data around that, and what are we seeing?
Sure. Well, we're seeing more and more people, I'm wearing a health tracker right here, that, just being able to have better quantified information about how we're doing, how active we are. We know more information about us healthy now than we used to know about people who are sick. So, being able to bring this data together, being able to share this with caregivers really does provide a great deal of additional information. And this ties into some of the work that Tom's doing as well with their Digital Entrepreneurship Institute, of also being able to tie people into careers and working, and that engagement is a major benefit as well. So
in terms of older adults getting online for the first time, I mean, why does it seem like so many older people are just sort of worried about breaking the internet? I mean, what's the fear there, and how are you helping them?
Well, we live in such an age-segregated society,
right.
And so people that are older have been bombarded with messages that technology is for young people, and that, in fact, a lot of things that are going on out there are not directed toward their interests, and they don't feel as welcome as they should be. And so when an older person wants to learn the technology, they've been waiting on the sidelines for so long that they're worried that the first question they have to ask might not be a very good one. And in fact, when you go and ask your daughter or your grandchild a question about technology, often they don't display a lot of patience in communicating and teaching. And so people start to feel that you're coming from a position of authority and experience and leadership in the family or in your social network, but then when you're going online for the first time, it's as if you're completely ignorant of something and you're taking a lot of social risk. So what we do at Oates is we really work with creating small group environments with older people and classes that are designed to be maximally relevant to somebody who's over 60, but also taught by professional trainers and volunteers who are trained to be patient, and to expect that a person, when you say reach over and take the mouse, you have to make sure that they know what the mouse is and how to move it on the desk, and if it's a tablet, how to find an icon and touch it, and taking your time when you go online for the first time so that people have a really positive experience. We find that once people learn the basics, they really take off and begin exhibiting the same characteristics online as the rest of the population, but that on-ramping process, particularly for older people, is really critical.
Once they get past the disappointment of no porn, is there? I mean, what's the comfort level, and what's the what are the opportunities that you're seeing some of these prisoners?
Well, across the board, it's access to information leads to education, leads to opportunity. We have in the prisons we're working on GED and high school completion programs and getting people involved in vocational training to reduce recidivism. The same reason we go to school in the analog world, getting information out in the digital world leads to just as many rewards.
I'm going to ask one more question and then come to the audience. But so maybe Steve and and Tom, are hardware and software companies sort of meeting the needs of people with disabilities, and what are the opportunities that are out there?
I think there's a lot of amazing technology being developed right now, and I'm seeing a lot of companies paying a lot more attention to these spaces. They're making devices, right now through your mobile phone, you're able to control basically your entire environment through, smart home products and through wearables and other devices along those lines. And this is granting a much greater degree of accessibility than we've had before. And we're just seeing this space explode. Right now, actually, just recently, our foundation just ran a contest for CES where we've had a number of startup companies who are focused on either aging or disability. And really, actually, it was more technology in general that could make a difference on these spaces. And we had an amazing amount of responses, and we're getting ready to announce those winners. But there's just technology coming from all over the country and really all over the world that can make a difference in this space.
And we found that in terms of the products and services that are being developed, they're actually very important. And we're finding, for example, seniors, and it's not so much the disability issues, but just older people learning are finding it easier and easier as the technology has become less complicated and more reliable, and tablets have fewer viruses and things like that. So there's really a chance to engage. But there's also the partnerships, and I would say, I want to really call out Comcast and the other telecommunications companies. They've been the leaders in partnering with nonprofits and government to try to create programs and kind of learning processes around what gets people online and how can they benefit. So Comcast has been involved, around the country, but also Time Warner Cable and Verizon have done all sorts of programs around, helping people with health access and exploring some of the kind of partnerships that are critical for helping people.
If I could add to that, I don't think that we don't lack for technology solutions. We've got plenty of technology out there, and more things are being developed every day. In the case of people with disability, they're disproportionately unemployed or underemployed, and they can't afford a lot of these solutions. So I think what we're really missing is a community commitment, a social contract that says everybody should be connected, could be connected, should have the devices that they need. In the countries where, and there's a couple dozen of them, where people are better connected than we are here in the US, they have made that social commitment.
We're going to go to questions from the audience. Do we have any over there? Oops.
Yes, we do. Sorry. We have two questions. One is there any concerted efforts to help infuse technology into nursing homes and long-term care for the residents? We've worked quite a lot with nursing homes and long-term care facilities. Most of them are beginning to integrate sort of as part of the development plans of each project. They're putting technology into the projects, and so you can go in and there's Wi-Fi and they'll have a few computers. But a more sophisticated program that really takes advantage of what technology can do is not something that we have seen in any of the places that we visited where we feel that there's really something that's really robust. The assisted living centers do have quite a few programs that are starting to really make a difference. And I know that Connected Living has a national program that's worked a lot in assisted livings, but that's a different environment. Okay, we have. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I'll just add to that. I really do think it's dependent on the facility. I mean, we've seen some that are really investing in trying to get technology, and others that aren't. They're each kind of independent. So it really depends on the organization and the location.
I guess to add one point there, we'll go back and forth on this. I think understanding those technologies and what they do is critical. So there's a whole world of monitoring technologies now, telemedicine and monitoring devices that can really go from what's a person's blood pressure and smart scales to did a person get out of bed, or did they fall, and the sensor-driven devices. And those are beginning to be incorporated not just in private homes but also in a lot of the facilities.
But I guess what we'd love to see is there's going to be another generation beyond that where a lot of the therapeutic and activity-oriented things that go on in a long-term care facility or nursing home can take advantage of, video and the production of content that the older people can be engaging in, and bridging across those physical barriers so that people can feel that they're really present with their families. I mean, imagine what telepresence robots can do when a senior can send a robot to their grandkid's birthday party in another state and feel like they're really there.
Cool.
And so that stuff is really the next wave. We haven't quite gotten there yet.
I know we're going to talk about Native American populations a little bit later, but there is a question about if you could all discuss what you know about any programs in Native American communities, reservations.
Oh, come on, crickets?
All right, we're going to get to that. Whoever asked the question, we're going to get to that. What about for the disabled?
We've been working with a number of different programs with different disability organizations. We've worked with the American Foundation for the Blind on some work identifying technology such as screen readers that you had on your discussion earlier today, and the accessibility that comes from that. We've worked a lot with the Hearing Loss Association of America and Gallaudet University for deaf and hard of hearing communities, and the potential that comes from doing text-to-speech and real-time text and other types of technology like that can just really opens up the world quite a bit. And being able to video chat helps quite a bit there, because just being able to see people's lips move makes a significant difference.
Great, thank you. Back to you, Alison.
Cliff, I want to ask you about access to information, and a lot of the technologies we've been talking about are used for communication, but what about the capability to create? How important is that, and what's being done to really address, for all of these groups, the ability to create information?
Right, and so we have the ability for someone to take their story and put it online, to share it in this milieu and have it archived and available for future generations. That's all really critical stuff in Native American reservations and poor communities. And so we focus on, one of our program focuses is on the creation of content. If when somebody has any granary, they can make their own website. All the tools are built in, and we're working with kids in Durham, North Carolina, to build websites and start just mastering this technology so they become creators. And when they see themselves on the screen, when they see their community on the screen, it just transforms the technology for them.
How about with older adults? Because that is a group that, we're talking about telepresent robots, and communication is sort of the focus, but what about creation there?
The creative process for the seniors has been really one of the kind of the big wins with the technology access. So, to begin with, first of all, they're joining conversations. So if you think about social conversations on Facebook or in social media, when an older person joins into that, suddenly they are lending their voice and they're lending their presence. But we're finding, we have a digital, we run a center in New York City called the Senior Planet Exploration Center, which is in Chelsea in Manhattan. We have about 13,000 visitors a year there. And one of the programs that we run is a web development training for people that want to build their own websites. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people are building them to start businesses. There's a lot of entrepreneurship among people over 60. But I was visiting a class recently and started just asking people what kind of websites they were working on. About half of them were doing something associated with the cultural arts. People were painters. They wanted to put archive their paintings online. One gentleman was an agent for other artists, including musicians, and wanted to create a site so that people could find his clients online. So they're really beginning to use the web to kind of generate a lot of their projects and have more presence visually out there.
I have to, oops, sorry.
I was going to say, there was a documentary that came out, I guess probably just about a year ago, called Cyber Seniors, which focuses on the intergenerational program that connected high school students with older adults. Mm-hmm. And they created YouTube videos. And actually, it was really kind of cute, some of the things that were developed there. But just the opportunity to engage various generations around content creation, I think, is a real opportunity.
I have to ask two Washington questions. The first one being that, campaigns today really sort of cater to young audiences by the technologies that they're using, Snapchat, they're focusing all their efforts on there. Are older adults being left out of the political process here because of that? Is there?
Absolutely. I mean, it's really been a challenge where,
we're reaching a point here where we've excluded by just de facto an entire generation of older people from participation in our civic life, because when 40% of older people are not online at all, they're missing a lot of the content that's happening from the sites, and their participation is really hampered by it. On election day, they come out to vote, but they're not reading the same materials as people that are online.
Go ahead, Cliff.
Well, I'm going to say, I'd like to turn that around and say, what are we missing? Because I'm looking around the room, I'm seeing a lot of devices. We are all part of the privileged people who get to be on the internet. But there are things that we cannot do because a large portion of our population is not on the internet. Teachers tell me that they can't give assignments to students to do something on the internet because some portion of their students don't have access to the internet. We talk about the political process. Every conversation about voting online grinds to a halt because we have so many people that are not connected. So there are a whole bunch of things that we probably could be accomplishing if we made this commitment to connect people.
Down the line real quick because we're out of time, but what's one thing that lawmakers here could do to better support your work or the people you work with? Maybe I'll start at the end. And,
Sure. I think it's really just a matter of, promoting the opportunities that exist within technology and really, helping to encourage the innovation that can be developed within the industry.
I think we have to set the flag high. We have to say that connectivity is a civil right, and that we need to engage all of the partners in getting to that point.
And I think we really need to redesign the way that we do aging services programs in America. It's still really outmoded and it's underinvested. And so as we recast what our public policy is that supports and engages older people, we need to build the technology in as a strategy to really help people age in a more successful way now.